If I can't force you to get an abortion, you shouldn't be able to force me to get
Because it's not about you. It's about people you interact with, and that's the social contract of public health.
We don't even know if the vaccine worked or not at the time.
Yes, that's what the trials are, dude. That's why these trials. What, are you missing data?
But let me ask you a question. Are we saying only one type of scientists are right?
No, we're saying.
In any other circumstance, if I were to ask you a question like, do airbags stop people from dying in car crashes? You would say yes, of course they do. And then if I were to counter you with like, really? So nobody ever dies in a car crash with an airbag? Yeah, obviously some people die. When I say that it stops people from dying, it doesn't mean it's 100%. You would never apply that standard of English anywhere else. The reason why you apply it here is, what do you think is the causes? The mRNA, okay, this is the most frustrating thing. The mRNA vaccines aren't even linked. If only 1% gets it, that's still an insane amount of people. I guarantee you that if I went... This man is no longer a scientist, he's an ideologue. Oh, I like how I know instantly that means that Neil deGrasse Tyson must have been defending vaccines. Wild.
At the beginning of COVID to what we know today, what do we know about the vaccine today that we didn't know while we were all testing it in America, taking it? What have we learned now?
What do you mean testing it on America? There were tests before it was released.
9 months is not a long time to test.
No, but it was tested.
Yeah, but 9 months, the average is 5 to 10 years. I mean, 9 months is not enough.
Okay, so you have to test. No, you have to ask. Hold on. It was tested in trials. Okay? By the way, I'm not claiming to be the expert on all this. I read all the same things you have, but I'm a scientist, so I read it as a scientist. Okay? There were trials. That's what the point of phase 1, 2, 3 trials are all about. They are tested enough to get data on how to then advise the larger population. Yes, it was tested. For you to say it wasn't tested is a gap between your awareness and understanding how things work and what actually happened. It was tested. If you want it to be tested on millions of people instead of thousands, you can put in for that. You can say, I don't want this unless it's millions. That's okay.
Totally fine with me.
Okay?
I'm okay with that.
That's fine. So based on that, do you say, let's keep testing it while the virus keeps spreading? Okay? Right. So this is the contest between the information you have available to you at that moment and what's going on outside the lab. People are dying. Hospitals are becoming overloaded. So, do you say we have good data on the 1,000? It's not yet at 1 million in case you wanted 1 million. Are you going to say, let's still do it on let's wait another 6 months so we get another 1 million in here? Will you do that as a public health professional?
No, I would have said, allow the individual to still have a choice that's okay with 1,000 instead of a few million. Leave the person have the choice. Not force him to take it or else you're going to get out of the Marines, and you've been doing this for 14 years. Not force him to take it or else you have to quit your job as a nurse.
There's a public health
force versus
there's a
choice.
There's a public health concept.
Just to reiterate, and it's so wild to me how many military people got caught up in this whole anti-vax shit, given the military's position on vaccines. Given that when you went into basic, you're like going up and down in a line, getting so many shots. You have no idea what's in any of these things. And the again, just even looking at my own family, I've said this before, my dad gets it's like 40 to 60% disability is paid out by the Air Force because one of the vaccines that he got, he had a negative reaction that destroyed part of his shoulder. He can't lift his arm above his head because of the injury. And he gets paid out disability from the Air Force from his retirement. And my parents were still both pro-vaccine. It wasn't even a question. I got all of my shots growing up. It was never a question. Even with my dad having a negative reaction from a vaccine, it wasn't until this COVID shit that now both my parents are huge anti-vaxxers. This is so wild to me. It's so crazy. Was that the live polio vaccine by chance? I don't know what it was. My parents would have gone into the Air Force. If my dad was in and out in 20, I think it would have been in the Air Force. He probably joined in the 90s, 80s? I think he joined in the 80s, I think. 70s? 70s or 80s.
That you have signed implicitly as a citizen of a country where in part we depend on each other for health, our wealth, our security, and the like. And that contract is, in the best scientific evidence available at the time, if you do not get vaccinated, you will put other people in this organization at risk, and that organization does not want to take that risk. So you do not have this job anymore if you decline it. So with any public health decision, there has to be a consequence to you not participating in that social contract. Is it your job? In some cases it was. But no, we're not going to have the army bust into your home and force a needle into your shoulder. That's not going to happen.
We pretty much did that.
Well, only put your job at risk, yes.
Yeah,
Certain states
67% of Americans took the COVID. That's force. That's not a choice. That's a lot of force and coercing and pushing going on. But you can't go to the school unless you're vaccinated against mumps. I think that's bullshit.
That's a different country.
Yeah, but
okay, what you want a country?
No, America is supposed to be the one that offers the most freedom. That's what America is supposed to be.
Yeah, okay, so watch.
So for example, if you use that argument, somebody may say, well, freedom of choice. I want to choose what I want to do with the body. You're right.
What body?
If you want to get an abortion, it's your choice.
Your own body.
If you want to get an abortion, get an abortion. If I want to get the vaccine, I get to choose. So you can't force. If I can't force you to get an abortion, you shouldn't be able to force me to get
because it's not about you. It's about people you interact with, and that's the social contract of public health.
We don't even know if the vaccine worked or not at the time.
Yes, that's what the trials are, dude. That's why these trials. Are you missing data?
But let me ask you a question. Are we saying only one type of scientists are right?
No, we're saying that the system in place,
the 16,000 that signed that.
No. The system in place to test vaccines. Yeah. There's an entire system that's in place. That with review boards and all of this,
and the average
that's in place. Now you can say what you can say is, I have a better idea than all these review boards and all these agencies and the CDC. I have a better idea. Here's what you should do, and that would have made everything better. Okay, you can put forth that idea, but what I'm saying is, in a case where you can contaminate someone else, it's not about you. It's about the collective health.
You're assuming because somebody can take the vaccine, won't get COVID, which, by the way, I don't need to play the clips for you to see it, where everybody said, hey, if you get it, you're not going to get, if you take the vaccine, you're not going to get a Rachel Maddow, Joe Biden. I can give you Fauci. I can give you
I hate that these guys will jump over themselves to explain away the insurmountable amount of evidence of Trump saying and doing stupid things. But when it comes to like statements on the vaccine, these fucking people will hang so hard off of one fucking thing. Biden said that if you get the vaccine, you won't get sick. And so what every single person meant was that the vaccine was supposed to have a 100% like, bullshit, dude. Come the on. I've heard that one clip play. Like, nobody, that was never the widespread belief, right? Especially when you're making fun of a guy like Biden who has gaffes all the time, or who's not like the best speaker, right? Like, I feel like, yeah, it feels like these, for as much as these guys talk about how like English should be the first like and only language we speak in this country, it feels like these guys don't speak English very well. Like, it's pretty obvious like what he's saying. If you listen to it, oh, if you don't get it, you won't transmit it. He didn't mean like it's a 100% like you're never going to transmit. Like, who the believe that? Nobody was saying that at the time. That's not like, that was never the popular opinion ever.
You've seen these clips before. It's not like you've never seen it before.
Yeah, what happened?
They were wrong.
Hold on. So, the strain evolved, okay, so that the vaccine that prevented you from catching COVID was tuned to the variant of COVID at the time the vaccine was designed, okay? Over time, there were variants that arose. The vaccine provided partial protection against the new variants, enough to keep you from dying statistically, and to basically keep you out of the hospital, allowing other people with more severe problems to get the...
Yeah, that's true too. Oh shit, actually what he's saying too, somebody emailed me about this a while ago, I have to bring up too. What was the justification for mandates if not that they stopped the virus from spreading? They do stop the virus from spreading, but when somebody says like they stop, like, you're not... I can't do it. I actually can't do it. I have to like be patient. I have to be patient because you're retarded children. It's a retarded question. In any other circumstance, if I were to ask you a question like, do airbags stop people from dying in car crashes? You would say yes, of course they do. And then if I were to counter you with like, really? So nobody ever dies in a car crash with an airbag? You would go, well, no, of course not. I mean, or no, like, yeah, obviously some people die. When I say that it stops people from dying, it doesn't mean it's 100%. You would never apply that standard of English anywhere else. The reason why you apply it here is because you're bad faith. You don't give a f about what the facts are. You don't give a f about what the truth is. And you don't even give a f about what people are saying. Like, all you care about is sucking off whatever crazy f***ing alternative media source you watch because it makes you feel smarter than the population, or like you've got some key in on like the New World Order. But like, when somebody says like, do vaccines stop the transmission of the virus? Yes, they do. That doesn't mean 100%. And no intelligent person would parse that sentence that way. No person that is fluent in English would parse that sentence that way. You either don't speak the language, which is possible, because a lot of you sound real stupid, so it is possible you don't speak the language, or you're just bad faith. You're not approaching the question with any amount of like actual intellectual honesty. Like, it's one of those two things.
Hospital attention they required. And so then they would develop a subsequent, the booster and a subsequent mixture of the vaccine. This is what happens every year with a flu shot. They look at how the flu has evolved from one season to the next. And what's fortunate is Australia tends to get the variant of flu before we do, because they get their winter in our summer. And then, so we study that, have a forward projection for it. So these annual flu shots are precisely out of the same idea of how this occurs.
How long have those been tested, though? For years. COVID vaccine hasn't been tested for it. It was something we just came out. But let me.
I don't know what point you're making, other than it was tested. You might
9 months is not enough.
You might prefer. No, it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of how many. Yes, time matters, but the number of people is paramount. That's the most important thing. Okay, you don't test it on 10 people. You test it on as many people as you can.
Sure.
And I think it was thousands, but
is it fair to say that some of the side effects we may not know for 5, 10, 15, 20?
When do most vaccine side effects appear? I've heard 2 months is the, I should have saved this in, my, Zotero. Because I was trying to read because a lot of people talk about like long-term vaccine side effects. My understanding is, and if somebody can find something that says something different or whatever, my understanding is that for any vaccine that we've ever released ever in the history of all of mankind, the longest far out you would ever see for a side effect of a vaccine would be 2 months. That's like the max. The idea, and then most side effects are going to happen within like a week or like within a day or two. The idea that like when you have a vaccine and the idea that it can just hang out somewhere in your body and then like show up months or years later doesn't make any sense. But it's mRNA. For mRNA, sorry, hold on. I need to. Problem is, I feel like I'm teaching something to somebody who doesn't want to learn. Like you're not actually answering. You're not asking these questions in good faith. You don't care what I have to say. I don't even know why I'm saying it. I guess for the people that don't know, mRNA is unimaginably fragile. It is so hard. One of the reasons why Pfizer is on record saying investing in this is really risky. One of the reasons why people didn't think mRNA vaccines would ever work is because mRNA, if you look at it wrong, if you talk about it poorly in another room, it will disintegrate, okay? It is so unbelievably fragile to work with mRNA. That's why the most difficult part, my understanding, the most difficult part, the mRNA manufacturing process, and I don't know if I read this on Stream It Up, there's a whole read up on the, they use an incredibly sophisticated process with these things called LNPs, these lipid nanoparticles. The manufacturing, there were like 2 machines, there were 2 plants in the world that could manufacture these precise particles that they would use to suspend this mRNA to get it into your body. It is so difficult to do it without having the mRNA disintegrate completely. So the idea that like mRNA can just like What do you mean by fragile? When I say fragile, what I mean is it's like unstable. Like it'll break down or break apart at different temperatures when it comes into contact with other things. Like it just gets eaten and destroyed. Like mRNA that goes into the body is like, it's like gone. mRNA that you try to study in a laboratory has to be done under precise conditions and precise temperatures and precise, like it's a very, you can't just have like, oh, like here's like some mRNA, let's study it. It's like, I've got to fucking jerk off into this thing 52 times. I've got to like give it 27 compliments. I've got to put it under the exact like negative fucking 70 degrees Celsius temperatures and suspend it in liquid nitrogen. There's like all this shit you have to do to even get like mRNA to survive long enough to study it. It's a very, 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 it's a very, very difficult material to work with. So this was like one of the biggest parts of getting this into your body was finding a way to do it without it just like fucking disappearing immediately. But yeah, so when people are like, oh, the mRNA is gonna float around in your blood forever. No, it doesn't. That's not what mRNA does. It can't do that. It just doesn't make any sense. That was also one of the things that was driving me crazy about the about that died suddenly thing when it talked about like the blood clots and everything. What are your proposed mechanisms for how these blood clots are being formed? I don't think Destiny knows what mRNA is. Finch and Beagle, do you want to come on Discord and talk about it? What do you mean I don't know what mRNA is? Do you know what an NFT is? I remember in college that we had to do so many precautions to isolate RNA because RNAs are fucking everywhere, ready to digest RNA. Okay. mRNA is liberal mythology. You can't see it here, but if you look at it, it disappears, but they still worship it. True. These are big, complicated topics that nobody knows much about, so I understand skepticism, but it seems like the skeptics really don't want to let go of the first thing they think is true. True, and they're not even that complicated. None of this is that, these aren't that complicated. These are pretty simple topics. It's like, it's not that hard. If you, that's why I don't like to be like, oh, I don't know, it's complicated, you don't understand the science. It's not that hard, right? You have, you've got your little RNA strands, okay? Corresponding to each of these amino acids, you can basically plug in a little Lego block, which is a little RNA strand. There are different types of RNA. That's not important. RNA is a little sequence of, it's really letters and bullshit. It's a little sequence of letters that floats around in a thing. And there's another guy over here, our friend the retard zome, okay? He gets the little thing from the mRNA, he reads it, and for every 3 little bullshits, he prints out like a little protein thing. And that's it. That's all it does. Ribosomes are little protein printers. They print out things and they eat mRNA to do it. That's it. It's not that complicated. I'm sure you can go like 50 trillion more into it or whatever you want to, but that's it. It's not that hard. This isn't like something that you need like a fucking undergraduate degree or postgraduate degree to study. People will say school teaches you nothing you'll ever use in life, and then we have dumb who clearly didn't pay attention to high school bio becoming vaccine skeptics. True. Metaverse B is saying you didn't research these topics in YouTube chat. Wait, what? mRNA allows gene therapy. People don't know. No, the mRNA from the mRNA vaccines can't get to your DNA, right? There's a whole process to get through. It's called nuclear transport. That's like the high security zone. To actually get into the nucleus of a cell, you have to have like a special code to get through that, to cross that barrier. Stuff that gets into the gooey cytoplasmic part outside is not all going to get into the DNA inside. It's a different way to get through that. You have to, I think the process is called nuclear transport to do it, to get through that membrane. Nuclear. I don't know why I don't care. Okay. Destiny acting like he knows what he's on about. True. Metaverse B. You can change people, animals, and stuff. What? You're not exactly the leading official on this stuff, though. There's more to it. I'm not saying I'm the leading official. If you think if you think I'm wrong on something, then go ahead and tell me what I'm wrong about. But nothing is that complicated that we've gotten into so far. If the clots are a real thing, what do you think is the causes? The mRNA, okay, this is the most frustrating thing. The mRNA vaccines aren't even linked to, they're not even linked to clots. The ones that are linked to clots are the traditional vaccines. It's the viral vector vaccines. It's the AstraZeneca one. This isn't even it's not even an mRNA vaccine. These are the ones that got linked to blood clots. And even at that, the clotting factor was incredibly rare. I think I knew the answer a long time ago, but I don't remember what the mechanism was for why these cause blood clots. I think it's an overreaction of the immune system, because clotting blood is part of what you do as a reaction. But I would have to go back and read. I'd have to reread why they cause blood clots. You're simplifying concepts with pop science destiny. Your explanation of mRNA vaccines are a wholly lot more complicated, especially in cases with experimental vaccines. Cool. What do you think I'm missing, Cool Cat? What do you want me to say? I have enough of an understanding to tell you how it works from start to finish. I'm not going to be able to tell you, like, I guess how like an individual thing fucking, what part of it do you think I'm missing? That's relevant to the conversation. Bro, you link with Sneeko, you get Lil Sneekos. Pretty sure the mRNA vaccines were also found to cause clots. I never heard anything about the mRNA being linked to clots. Maybe they have been, but I haven't seen that. I haven't heard that yet. Has an off-target effect of mRNA been observed in experiments in the lab? A lot of experiments in a lab are a lot of experiments in a lab don't necessarily translate to an entire in vivo environment inside of a human body's environment. In vitro allows us to manipulate either individual cell lines or environments inside of a petri dish that wouldn't exactly match the environment inside of a human body. This is one of the big problems initially with ivermectin. Ivermectin was shown to be effective initially in treating COVID-19, in treating COVID-19, because it inhibited, I think, the replication of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in vitro. But the problem with that in vitro experiment was that the concentrations of this wasn't for ivermectin. This was for hydroxychloroquine, I think. I think it was for hydroxychloroquine. The problem is that the concentration of I think it was for ivermectin. The concentration of ivermectin that you needed in that petri dish was like 1,000 times higher than what you would ever need or what you would ever normally have by taking ivermectin as a drug. You need to take like 1,000 times like the recommended safe dose in order for it to happen. But people would take that in vitro, meaning just in a petri dish. They would take that experiment. They go, oh, look, ivermectin will cure COVID-19, ignoring that there wasn't a single in vivo, like an actual in-a-person study for it ever, or there was no epidemiological data to support that conclusion either, right? In vitro is good because in vitro can allow you to understand and study the underlying mechanisms of things, like, oh, if you do this, this will happen because of this reason. But that doesn't necessarily translate to a human environment for a whole multitude of more complicated reasons. Okay, what do you want? Metaverse, you're here. Are you ever going to go over the Robert Malone claims? I feel like that's where a lot of the stupid mRNA claims come up. No, not anymore. Nobody uses his claims anymore. Anti-vax is always hot from claim to claim to claim to claim to claim. The Robert Malone shit is old as fuck. I don't think anybody cares about anything he said anymore. Almost everything that he said was wrong. He's not the founder of mRNA vaccines. Almost every cause for concern or every worry that he gave, I think, is outdated and nobody cites them anymore. Like the Robert Malone dude is a scam artist. He's a sham wizard. The guy's a loser and a dipshit. If I ever had the chance to debate him, I'd take him up on it 1,000,000%. 99% of what that guy said about mRNA vaccines, or vaccines in general even, were just stupid. Like that Joe Rogan appearance was wild. He was just on Rogan again? Oh, nice. Oh, well, maybe then we'll refresh on all the retarded shit he has to say about anything relating to medicine. Okay, Metaverse B admin, going once. Your thing is muted. I don't know if you... More in-depth definitions of medical terms, vitro and vivo, please. Go Google them. The problem here is there have been no studies critically analyzing whether there have or haven't been off-target effects in vivo as a result of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine. Why haven't they? They probably have been. That's probably part of like the normal studies that they do, my dude. Like it's always like finding some new esoteric term, and it's like, what? Have you guys looked for like the astrological anema sida effect or whatever? Why have there been no studies involving it? Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Over like 2 billion people, I think, have taken the over 2 billion people, I think, have taken the have taken shots so far. Like, where are all of these negative effects? When are they going to happen, right? Yeah, they're all dying suddenly on the field, true. Okay, the metaverse guy doesn't know how to work his shit, I guess. Just FYI, the person talking about off-target effects doesn't make any sense at all. It literally wouldn't make sense to study unless we believe mRNA is being incorporated into the genome. Gotcha. Wouldn't long-term effects be hard to study in such a short term? True, but there's just no reason to believe that there are long-term effects to these vaccines. But I mean, they'll still watch populations, and I mean, there's a reason why, and it's funny because it bit them in the ass trying to be responsible. But like, one of the reasons why you've seen the VAERS database explode so much is because people were trying to keep track of like side effects from these vaccines. That's why the VAERS database reporting was so heavily encouraged by medical professionals after these vaccines went out. But now most people don't even know how the VAERS database works, and they're citing it like it's like 100%. Like if somebody puts something in the VAERS database, that means that they absolutely 100% died from a side effect of a vaccine or some shit like this. Oh, dude. Dude. Come on, dude.
You can't, like, they can't say we know 100% the side effects 10 years from now. How are you going to know that?
Yeah, okay. So, no, of course.
It's not going to be 10 years. Like, I feel like these guys are such a massive cope. First of all, 10 years? 10 years? But like, even after 10 years, they're just like, oh, well, I don't trust it because Fauci, you know, I saw him like scratch his ass once and snip his finger, so I don't trust anything. Like, there's always like some new stupid excuse. Always. There always is.
We can't know
so
that.
then all I'm saying is...
Watch. We can't know that.
Okay.
But watch. So I have a whole chapter called Risk and Reward in the book, which tries to...
If you have myocarditis, it could take years to show up. That's not true. Myocarditis is a reaction that shows up pretty quickly. It's an inflammation response. What do you mean it would take years to show up? That's not true.
Sensitize people to when they make a decision, what kind of risk are they absorbing relative to what they're rejecting, okay? And we're not very good at that, at probability and statistics or analyzing. That's why TV commercials trying to sell you a product don't just show you data. They show a person speaking of the effectiveness of the product. A single person. I lost 50 pounds. The testimony of an individual should be irrelevant to you relative to the entire set of people who have done it. And you want to look at those statistics, but we're not good at that. And advertisers know that. So they show the testimony of an individual, which is hugely potent.
Destiny, wrong. It does take years. Most people aren't even aware that they have it. That's just not true, my dude. Most myocarditis is acute. It's gone in a week or two. It's not going to take years for it to show up. You're developing, in exceptionally rare cases, I guess you could, but chronic myocarditis is an incredibly rare thing. You're not just gonna. That's not like a bunch of people are walking around with massive inflammation or even minor inflammation of the heart for years and years. I have no idea. That's not true. Destiny has zero knowledge on this topic. Okay. Oh, dude, the bot talking points. Holy shit, you guys are NPC'd up the ass, dude.
In a civilization where we don't think statistically, we think about eyewitness testimony on something, and somehow that is raised to a very high level of influence on our decisions. What I'm saying is, you're not your decision point is not, I'm not going to take the virus because 5 years, 10 years, I don't.
If only 1% gets it, that's still an insane amount of people. I guarantee you that if I went through your fucking Twitter feed, I bet you've got like a COVID only kills 1% of people. It's not even that big of a deal. Like, bro, I guarantee you've made the exact opposite thing in terms of the risks associated with COVID. But for like some inflammation from a vaccine, you're like, it's 100% over. Like, dude, get out of here, man. Kill me.
I don't know what effect it's going to have.
Some may, though. Some may not be comfortable with
Let me
that.
finish the sentence. Okay? So you can say, I don't want to take the virus because 5 or 10 years from now,
I don't want to take the
could be a
virus.
side effect that we don't see.
Which is a possibility.
Hold on. I'm trying to make a statistical point here, okay? If you say, I don't want to take the virus because it hasn't been tested for 5 years and there could be some long-term side effect.
You keep saying the mRNA vaccine doesn't mutate the DNA, but you keep ignoring that the spike protein was designed for that specific purpose. No, it wasn't. Mr. D. Joneso, do you want to hop into Discord? That's not true. None of that even made sense. Chronic myocarditis is common? No, it's not. Myocarditis and pericarditis are is it pericarditis? I don't think that's right. Hold on. It is pericarditis, sorry. Myocarditis and pericarditis are rare side effects. They're already rare. Most of the time when you have them, they're short-lasting, acute. So even when you get them, it's not likely to be chronic. Wait, where's the one guy who was talking about the spike protein and reverse DNA? Where are you at? Hop into Discord, my boy. Unless you're black, in which case I'll say my fella.
That worries me, okay?
Well, hold on. Listen, if he's black, I don't want to call him my boy because that might be racist, okay? I'm going for the optics W here, okay? I'm trying to cover all my bases.
In that same moment, there's the risk factor of you getting COVID,
Sure.
okay? Unvaccinated. At one point, 87% of everyone dying in the hospital of COVID
Was unvaccinated?
was unvaccinated.
True.
Okay. So your risk choice is, I'm not going to take it because maybe somewhere down the line something will happen and we don't know what that is, or I will risk getting COVID. And if I get COVID, depending on your age and other things, there's a
The best current hypothesized cause of vaccine-induced myocarditis is spike protein being exported from cells into circulation. Levels of circulating spike protein were significantly higher in infection than from vaccine because, of course, yeah, I heard that. That I think they were pulling blood or they were testing people that were developing myocarditis after the vaccine, and it seemed like those people had the spike protein circulating in the blood. So I think the worry was that, or the hypothesis is that you're more likely to develop myocarditis if somehow post-injection the spike protein, they're not staying local, I guess, and they're somehow like circulating throughout the body. And then if you circulate throughout the body, you're going to cause like inflammation around the body. One of those inflammations could happen in the myocardium, what the fuck is it called? And then that could be where the myocarditis is coming from. That was the one big study was recently published on that, I think a week ago.
the 3% chance of me dying in the hospital. That's your choice. Yes. Yes. But what I see people doing is they focus on one thing.
If the vaccine doesn't stop transmission, you're talking about compounded myocarditis risk from the vaccine as well as from contracting virus itself. This is never considered a risk benefit. Of course it's considered, but the consideration is low because your events for myocarditis from vaccine is like 7 out of 100,000. It's incredibly rare. It is incredibly rare.
And that's the foundation of their decision, rather than the other chance. And what happens if you get COVID? Now you get long COVID. Now you can have a taste buds for 2 years or whatever it is for long COVID.
Yeah.
You're on a ventilator in the hospital, possibly dying. Like what? Where is the? So I looked every day once a week. I looked at the statistics. How many people are getting COVID? What's the rate? What's the rate of hospitalization? What's the rate of deaths? Where is it by state?
I had to look at it. My board forced me to we're in the business where we have to
they
look at it.
should,
Yeah, of course.
because it's data.
Yeah, I agree.
On risk factors.
The risk of people's lives.
Okay,
for sure.
So nothing is ever zero risk. Yeah, there's a risk that you'll grow a third arm in 10 years because the virus mutates within you.
Should the individual not have the right to say, I don't want to take it because that's
you don't have the right to contend.
If you say the vaccine is potentially dangerous, you have to say COVID is dangerous. No. I don't think these people will admit it. I don't think they'll admit it But I think most of these people in my YouTube chat, I think they think that the vaccine is more dangerous than COVID. I don't think they'll admit it if you ask them, but I do believe that they think that. They think the vaccine is more dangerous than COVID is. Ooh. Oh.
Contaminate someone else. So if you don't want to get shot,
Who says that though? But who says that?
It's a social contract in a modern civilization.
I don't have
for public health.
I don't have the right to contaminate someone else. What do you mean? Like, so what do I do? Stay home all day?
Yeah, or it's go to the beach. Yeah, you stay away from other old people who
but
you stay away from people who are immune compromised.
So Neil, so for me, I'm asking you because I want to know how.
Wait, did he call him mijo? Wait, did he say that or did I?
How you process this as a guy
Neil,
that's well-read, smart.
I process the data, and the data.
We didn't have enough data, though.
No,
we didn't have enough data.
At any given moment,
yeah,
there's data for you to make a decision. At any given moment,
sure,
the data is constantly getting better and better.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. At any given moment, you say to yourself, "Okay, what happens to me if I get COVID? There's a chance I'll get long COVID. I'm certainly out for at least a week." And there's a chance I'll be hospitalized, and there's a chance I'll die.
Mm-hmm.
I take the vaccine, it mitigates this, basically entirely removing the chance that I'm going to die, essentially, at my age group, and I will accept the risk that in 5 years I'll grow a third arm. That's the kind of decision making that I make. Now, that's just for me, but on top of that, if my workplace says, we don't want you coming in unless you are vaccinated and you might lose your job, I would say, why? Oh, because you could contaminate someone else, introducing a problem in their own health profile. That's the public contract. That's why workers wash their hands in the restaurant bathrooms by law. Yes, they're required to do so because you don't want poop germs in your dinner that they're preparing. Because our evidence showed that that's one of the greatest places you can spread disease is in a restaurant with a central kitchen. So this is the now you want a world where you can do whatever you want and have it influence other people.
I'm not saying that.
You kind of are.
I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is the following. Like, okay, for example, statistics. Have you seen the documentary Died Suddenly? Have you looked at it?
Oh,
Okay.
no.
It's an interesting one. It's on. I don't know where it's at. You can find it somewhere online. Yeah,
okay. Mm-hmm.
It's got 30 million views. I think it's worth watching. Actually, would be curious to know what you say about it once you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
The statistic then showed, like pre-COVID, 29 athletes in Europe died suddenly from heart failure. Pre-COVID, pre-taking the mRNA vaccine. Okay, post-taking the mRNA vaccine last year, 1,500 people suddenly had heart failures in Europe, and 2/3 died. That's documented. That's not like it's a hypothetical, right? Okay, you read statistics like that, then one has the right to say.
But just to be
Sure.
careful. You have to be careful how you speak information. So you are describing two events. Okay, you're describing events that had a temporal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before you've established a causal relationship. Just be clear that's
100%. I'm not doing that. All I'm doing is the following. Here's all I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody all of a sudden starts having a breakout, okay?
A breakout of what?
Meaning their skin starts breaking out.
Uh-huh.
You're 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You never had a breakout. All of a sudden you start breaking out. And the doctor says, listen, man, what have you been doing differently? Well, listen, for the first time in my life, 6 weeks ago, I started doing DECA, steroids. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, that's why it implicates it, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Hey, if somebody all of a sudden, is having a hard time sleeping at night, I'm having a very hard time. So let's watch your diet. Well, then they notice at 10:30 at night, you're having iced tea and, lemonade, and you add it with this. Well, listen, if we've been doing it for 6 weeks, that's why you're having a hard time. Just drop that. Don't drink that after 2:00. I'm just making, saying, but all I'm saying is, what I want to know is I want to put everything on the table versus saying, no, there's one thing we can't put on the table, and that's the cause of the vaccine. There is no way there could be any negative impact because of the vaccine. That's ludicrous.
No one has ever said that ever about any vaccine.
If you say that, then the question then becomes back for you to say, when COVID first got started, I invited so many doctors to come in to talk about COVID. And then I invited people
good, by
from
the way.
both sides. I want
Did you
both
do that?
sides. I invited people from both sides. You know which side would never come?
The left.
The side that was for vaccine would never, ever come because they thought they were above the average person, that they know and the rest of us are dumb. So because of that, they're not willing to come and sit down with scientists. I think that's arrogant. So to me, when I ask you scientific debate, I'm not telling you I'm a scientist. Hey, let me debate with you because I'm smarter than you. I'm not a scientist. I'm a business guy.
Let's do a hypothetical scenario. Hypothetics are, let's assume an actual cause and effect has been established in this case.
Sure.
Which it's not have to see the film to know. I don't know that it's a cause and effect other than a coincidence in time relative to other things that people might have been doing. By the way, alcohol consumption went up during COVID significantly. Okay, and alcohol is implicated in heart disease. So
depression, anxiety, people staying at home, kids,
opioid
addicts, addiction. Okay. So the staying at home wasn't the best decision either.
What I'm saying is, if after the vaccine is available, more people die of heart failure over a time where alcohol consumption went up, as did depression.
That could be an option.
That's right.
That's a very good point.
That's all I'm saying here. But let's give it to you that the vaccine caused this. Let's just say that. Okay?
Yeah.
And add it all up, and you got, what was it, 1,500 post-vaccine?
29 to 1,500.
29 deaths.
29 sports deaths to 1,500.
Thousands of deaths, let's say. Okay? Let's say 10,000 even. Let's just do that. Okay. All right. You can estimate how many deaths the vaccine saved during COVID. Okay, because you can look at the death numbers drop off as people got vaccinated. It's in the tens of millions. Again, you can make a decision. Do I not want to die from COVID at this rate that occurred in this world? Or do I not want to die from this complication from the vaccine itself, the heart failure? So make your decision. And so you'll say, I might be in that 1,500, so I'm not going to take. Then you get COVID and die from COVID, right? So you just make the decision.
You know what I would say to that? But you know what I would say to that?
At least I got to choose.
Here's what I would say to that. I would say, perfect. Let me take the risk. And thank you for giving it to me that way versus telling me it's one or the other, which is how it was presented.
You are informed fully about what the risks are. But like I said, as a species, we're not very good at thinking statistically about it. We're just not. And when we want to, we believe we're going to be the exception. And look at the people betting on lotteries. You know, they think they're going to win.
But for me, like, you know, the moment they started saying you have to put on cigarettes, the risk of heart failure, cancer, this, that. And if you still want to smoke cigarettes, guess what? You got a risk if you smoke cigarettes. You may get lung cancer, right? Hey, if you eat this, if you do this, if you do that.
Yeah, we've denied your admission to the bar. There's a cost to that because it's a public health issue. And so, you are free to smoke the cigarette, but not in my establishment, by law.
Not in your establishment.
By law.
Correct. No problem.
Right.
Totally fine.
But that's an example.
But if you want to smoke cigarettes outside, Neil, you can.
And
you can live on the beach unvaccinated. That's fine.
Neil, let me ask you this. So what state would you say was the most responsible during COVID?
State? I don't know. I never looked.
So if you're a stats guy. I have
no idea.
Okay, I'm a stats guy as well. I like stats, but I'm more financial. I'm not like, you know, but I understand what you're saying with
stats and finance.
I'm a baseball guy, so I like stats. Okay. I'm all about stats. I love baseball. So if we look at the stats, the media made Florida seem the most irresponsible state. That's what the media made it look. Okay,
we're in Florida right now. You guys do have kind of a bad reputation on a lot of stuff.
Okay, sure. So, and by the way, I've lived in California 24 years, 5 years in Texas, 2 years in Florida. Okay. Just so you know my background.
That's right. Okay.
10 years in Iran, 2 years in Germany. That's kind of my background. A couple years in the military. But if we say, hey, if we look at the data, the most irresponsible state was Florida. You would have heard many times news telling you that. When I'd go to California and I would say, I'm in Florida, I'm like, oh my God, you're in Florida. Oh my, it's horrible. But you know what I realized? Here's what I realized. If the state of Florida is so bad, why did the NBA during Black Lives Matter host the playoffs in Florida?
In the bubble.
If Florida
I thought they created a bubble for themselves.
But why did they come here? They could have done it in Texas. Texas got plenty of places they could do it in. Why did they do it here?
I don't know.
But the point is...
What is this argument? I thought you said you were a stats guy. Now we're going on where the NBA chooses to host their finals?
they felt safest.
I'm not going to use the NBA as a measure of.
Yeah, why would we use the NBA?
They also did the Super Bowl here.
A lot of the Super Bowl was here. I'll give you another one. Pro-vaccine AOC for vacation. She came to Miami. People from New York and California were partying.
Maybe they
Miami.
have family.
During COVID, when everybody was looking for a home during Christmas where to go to, you couldn't go to Colorado. You couldn't go to Lake Tahoe because it sucked. You had all these other choices. Everybody came to Florida.
I'm not going to judge the safety of a. I can't use that as a statistics of safety. I can't. I don't care who chooses where to vacation. I care what your death rates are, what your vaccination rates are, what your hospitalization rates are. That would be an objective measure from state to state. What state are you most likely to die in from COVID? That's a statistic I would pay attention to. What state has the least hospital beds to accommodate those who are sick from COVID, even if they're not going to die from COVID? I would want to know that. I'm not going to base a decision on whether the NBA chose to put their bubble in the state.
Well, statistically, New York and California does not look good. Statistically, New York and California, and they're supposed to be the most responsible ones.
The New York one is always a red herring. I wonder where California falls on all the deaths. Deaths per 1 million population. California is at 41, bro. So California is in the top 10 states, or the bottom 10, depending on for deaths. How are you out here saying Florida, that's ranked 12 in actual deaths per million, how are you going to say Florida did great and California is not looking good at rank 41? New York is at 15. Even New York didn't do as bad as Florida. And they're the ones that got in the beginning hard.
Those two states didn't look good. All I'm saying is, from my end, in a space where I sit there and I listen to you and I learn, I say, oh my gosh, okay, I had no clue about that. That was brilliant. That's interesting. Let me go research. Let me go look at this. I'm a guy that likes debate of experts in two different sides and let them make the argument. And I'm mature enough to know the better salesman doesn't necessarily have the better argument.
Good. But let me just say that there's nothing I've said in the last half hour that is a debating point. All I'm telling you, well, you can debate whether you should still be able to work and put other workers at risk for not having vaccinated. You can debate that.
Yeah.
In the context of public health, that's a risk factor that we don't want to introduce to other people because of your decisions. That's a public health issue. It's been going on basically for 100 and something years since, who's the woman who
your mom.
Famous
your mom.
Case.
It's your mom.
A person who spread what's it?
Oh shit! I know who he's talking about. There's a woman that had was it polio or something? She had a horrible disease, but she continued to work in typhoid Mary. Yeah. Apparently she had rare antibodies. She had complete immunity to this. It didn't bother her at all. But she kept working as a kitchen, and she infected 100 people with typhoid fever. But she didn't get sick from it personally, I think. She was an asymptomatic carrier of the pathogenic bacteria Salmonella typhi. She was the first person in the United States identified as an asymptomatic carrier. She persisted in working as a cook and thereby exposed others to disease. Because of that, she was twice forcibly quarantined by authorities, eventually for the final 2 decades of her life. She died after 30 years in isolation. Jeez.
What is that case?
Recently?
No, 100 years ago.
Thinking of.
Oh. It created a whole wave of sanitation rules and things for public health sake.
I'm not familiar.
But anyway, the point is, I want to make sure you can focus on the 1,500 people who died after the vaccine.
Mary Mallon? You're talking about the history of typhoid fever?
Yeah, Typhoid Mary. Yes, thank you.
Typhoid Mary. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know her last name.
Yeah.
I thought typhoid was her first name.
Typhoid Mary.
Okay. Wait. So it's simply a matter of, if you're saying you don't want to be in the 2,000, whatever the number is, who died after the vaccine from heart failure at the peak of your physical career, not totally necessarily factoring in all the other abuses that went on over that time that may have contributed to it. Instead, you want to take the risk of COVID and not be one of the 20 million people who would have died and didn't.
That might be where I go with this. We'll see.
I just want you to have the statistics in front of you. And it seems to me...
But it feels like I'm going to need like almost a different ingredient for every single one of these individual modules, which looks cancerous as... Fuck.
Most people would, in most cases, choose the path that reduces their chance of death.
But by the way, I don't disagree.
That's why I'm not debating. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there.
But this part of what you're saying, I'm 100% with you. But this is...
It's not a matter of being with me. It's just, are you with the decision-making of what is rational, statistical analysis?
But this position is not an arrogant position. This position is kind of like when you're sitting there and you tell the doctor, so doc, what do I do? Do I get the surgery? Like, we have one of my good friends right now is getting a brain surgery in the next couple weeks. She's afraid. Now, she believes in God, so faith is kind of...
I wonder if I could compare this, because these are business guys. There's something that you know when you're in business, and I know all of them would intuitively, immediately know this concept. The worst decision is always indecision, right? People think that sometimes the worst decision is making a bad decision, but more often than not, the worst decision is to be paralyzed and not make any decision at all. When you're investing, oftentimes you've got to make decisions based on limited information. You don't know 100% of everything. Or if you know 100% of everything, you're buying treasury bonds, right? If you're making investments, if you do venture capital, if you do any type of investing at all, especially for these guys that are like into business and finance, like I'm sure they intuitively know this. You have to make decisions based on limited information. This idea of like wait 10 years for all of the information to come out. I wonder if you presented it to them in like a finance light, like, well, how do you make decisions around like risky investments and everything? Like, what do you choose to do? Like, I wonder if they would evaluate it the same way.
Calming her down, but she's afraid, okay? The doctor says there's a 10% chance you're not going to make it. Mm-hmm. Do you want to, for the rest of your life, live having to take that medication with the side effects, or do you want to do the surgery? The individual is making a decision to get the surgery. She knows the chances is what? 10%. You know what I say to that? Hey, at least I know the risk. Versus, no, if you take this, you won't get anything. Propaganda, selling me this. Like, what's the three things that you say? There's three different types of truth, right? It's objective truth, personal truth,
and political truth.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the propaganda one I have a problem with. And I agree with you.
Should we all?
And that's the part I have a problem with. I'm personal truth, let's debate, have fun with it. Great, let the audience...
Personal truth. Yeah. You want to debate personal truth.
Exactly, that's cool. Okay.
Kirk or Picard,
yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But is that a Star Trek reference?
Dude, who let him in?
I'm sorry.
Who let him in?
They've been asking that question for years.
The political truth, I think, is what brought a lot of division in households and companies, different places.
Of course
I think that's what happened the last 2.5 years, specifically with that. And you know this, like, you took it, you didn't take it, you're part of a political party. Like, you may be positioning me right now.
Statistically, that was a correct statement.
Yeah, statistically it was. But what was interesting is that people with no college degrees took the vaccine less than those with bachelor's degrees, but then MBA was the least, which is kind of funny. MBA people took the least amount of vaccine
interesting
percent.
Sociological
sociology statistics.
Uh-huh. So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast,